They were ancient warriors who invented the boot camp, the frontal assault, state-sponsored education, and a lifestyle and aesthetic that, to this day, bears their name. They are the Spartans, and this is their story. From the 8th to the 5th centuries BC, Sparta was the envy of ancient Greece, a collection of several hundred often combative city-states.
Most Greeks admired the Spartans and feared them. They did not find it very comforting when a Spartan army, even a small one, arrived anywhere near their territory because of the reputation the Spartans had as soldiers.
The mere sight of the Spartan war machine sent many foes running for the hills. When battles were fought, they routinely involved small numbers and lasted only a matter of days. However, early in the 5th century BC, all that changed with a massive invasion from the east. Persia, a vast empire hungry to expand, steamrolled into Greece with a colossal army some 200,000 strong. But the Greeks, led by Sparta, gamely rose to the challenge. In 480 BC, 300 Spartan soldiers made an immortal stand at Thermopylae, inspiring a nation and tipping the balance of war. Then, 1 year later, on the fields of Plataea, the Spartans crushed the Persian infantry in one of the bloodiest days in history. General Pausanias and the legendary Spartan warriors under his command were hailed as heroes. Still, as the few surviving Persian troops limped home, the Greeks could only wonder, when would they fight again?
They hadn't destroyed Persian power. They hadn't destroyed the Persian Empire. They hadn't taken away the Persian money, the vast troops that they had. So any sensible Greek
But in 477 BC, Pausanias was replaced by an Athenian. Sparta was happy to step down as head of the Greek alliance and return to its role as hegemon, or leader of the Peloponnesian League, a loosely aligned confederation of city-states in southern Greece.
The Spartans seem absolutely bound and determined to retreat from any kind of global role. They just basically seem to see their only real future as Peloponnesian-based, as going back, running their league, and that's that.
Then there were the Messenians. Sparta had conquered Messenia some 200 years earlier and created a class of agricultural serfs called helots. But the helots outnumbered the Spartans by as much as 10 to 1, and rebellion was a way of life. Meanwhile, Sparta and Athens remained on good terms, despite a checkered past.
The number one politician in Athens was Cimon, who was friend of the Spartans beyond all belief. The Spartans trusted Cimon, therefore they didn't worry too much about the Athenians. Everything was going pretty well.
Cimon had great respect for the Spartans and their unwavering commitment to discipline and obedience. But fellow Athenian aristocrats who ruled the city did not think Sparta could be counted on if the Persians attacked again.
The perception emerged that Sparta was a great threat. Likewise, the Spartans from early on felt that Athens now threatened them, threatened their dependencies and their allies abroad.
So Athens began building its own formidable alliance, named the Delian League, after the sacred island of Delos, where the League's treasury was kept. Members included city-states to the north, most of the Aegean islands, and the city-states on the western coast of Asia Minor, formerly under Persian control. Athens demanded loyalty from its allies and payment of a heavy tribute to supply and maintain the navy.
The League had to compel some states who didn't want to join on the grounds that you couldn't be a free rider. We were bringing you freedom from Persia. We were preserving freedom of the seas and what could allow you to get rich. You have to contribute.
The Athenian navy's relentless patrol of Greek waters succeeded in eliminating the Persian threat. Almost immediately, several members of the Delian League wanted out.
The Athenians and the other allies reacted the way Lincoln and the North did when the South felt that would be a good idea and said, no you don't, and they used force to suppress those rebellions. So gradually, the Athenian navy got stronger, the allies got weaker, and this was turning into an Athenian empire.
In fact, by 465 BC, the Athenians rivaled the Spartans in muscle and influence. With its commanding naval presence, Athens ruled the seas, while Sparta's celebrated army was unbeatable on land. Two power blocks with two very different ideologies. Sparta demanded that the city-states in the Peloponnesian League establish oligarchies, ruled by a privileged few. Delian League members were expected to embrace democracy. The two Greek giants were on a collision course for war when the unexpected happened.
There is an earthquake that erupts in Spartan territory, kills a large number of Spartans. The Helots of Messenia take advantage of this natural disaster to rise up in rebellion.
More than 1,000 Spartan men died in the earthquake, leaving only 9,000 hoplites to quell the uprising. Desperate, they turned to their friend Cimon for help. At great personal risk, he managed to convince a reluctant Athenian assembly to commit troops to Sparta.
The Athenians send down a large army, a land army, ready to help the Spartans against their Helots. The Athenians show up, and the Spartans say, gee, we've changed our minds.
And the Spartans then respond in this really extraordinary way with this terrific insult of sending that army packing, of sending them back home. And why they did this is because they were terrified and scandalized by what they saw. They saw these democratic Athenians walking around in an open and free way, and these Athenians asking, hey, how come you guys have enslaved the Helots? Don't you know you're not supposed to enslave other Greeks?
And this really is the moment in which it's pretty clear that the two sides are not going to be friendly.
The humiliating rejection by the Spartans outraged the Athenian assembly, further reducing the influence of old-line aristocrats. Cimon was made the scapegoat and ostracized from Athens for 10 years as punishment. Back in Sparta, the Messenian revolt raged on for another 2 years. Finally, in 462 BC, the Helots were contained. But more trouble was brewing to the north, where Athens continued its rapid expansionism by concluding alliances with Thessaly and Argos.
That must have terrified the Spartans. Their ancient Argive rivals are now Democrats. So the Spartans were worried in two ways about democracy. One was what it might do to their own society if that notion crept in, and two, how it might hurt their foreign relations because democracies were likely to join with democracies.
In 459 BC, Athens and Sparta finally came to blows. However, the so-called First Peloponnesian War quickly turned into nothing more than a series of raids and counter-raids on opposing allies.
Sometimes it's a hot war, and there are actually military battles that are fought. Sometimes it's a cold war, and there's simply skirmishes on both sides. It's never fought totally.
Meanwhile, leadership shifted from Cimon to a wealthy Athenian named Pericles. Pericles was born into politics, and he would be a dominant force in Athens for the next 30 years. One of Pericles' pivotal gambits was to take over the Delian League's treasury, which had been originally under the control of the allies.
In the middle of the 5th century, the Athenians moved this treasury from Delos back to Athens.